Welcome back to the Dropout 704 podcast. You were here with your host, Samaj Sinclair, and to the left of me, we got the one, the only.
Michael Trochet, Casual Roundhouse Media. It's a pleasure to finally be able to appear on the Dropouts pod, bro. I appreciate you having me.
Heck yeah, man. I'm glad you came through finally, man. Yo, so Roundhouse Media, that's your YouTube, right?
Yeah, so it's funny. During COVID, right? Nothing was going on initially. And the first sport that came back was MMA, like on the grandest stage. It was the UFC. They were putting fights on in empty venues, and I was so entranced by that because it felt like you were watching like a fight scene out of a movie with no audience there.
Yeah.
And Casual Roundhouse was kind of just inspired by the fact that these guys were still doing what they were doing regardless of the circumstance. And I just got intrigued by breaking down the fights, matchup, event itself, forward-going circumstances, depending on the result, all that type of stuff. And I've been inconsistent with it, but it's established a passion for MMA and combat sports that I don't think is ever going to go away.
Yeah, we met at the gym, CCS.
Yep, we met at CCS. It's funny because when we met, right, I was like back and forth from Cullowhee still because I went to school at Western, I previously mentioned, but there was just so much happening at once. But you had mentioned that you had a podcast, and I was always just interested because I felt like with the amount that I know about combat sports and that I like force myself to know, it would have worked if we would have just collabed like this. I'm glad it's finally happening.
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. Everything in due time, though,
Exactly.
Now's the perfect time, especially with
Exactly.
everything going on, man. So our boy, Brian Battle, is about to fight this weekend. By the time this video comes out, he should have already won.
Yeah.
Bro, I'm thinking he's getting a first-round knockout.
I think he's going to finish this guy, but to the credit of his opponent, he has a lot of tough experience, and I think it's going to be an interesting fight, but Brian's got a lot of physical advantages in terms of size and reach, along with just tools like he has previously mentioned that he hasn't even had a chance to display yet on the grandest stage. So I think we're going to see a spectacular finish from our boy. Truthfully.
Yeah, honestly, I don't even know much about his opponent.
So it's fun. Ange Losa is his name, and he fought. Jack Della Maddalena, right? Actually, just won this past week, I think, on UFC 299 against Gilbert Burns.
Mm-hmm.
They fought on the Contender Series back in 2021, and that was like probably one of the craziest dogfights I've watched in the Contender Series history. There's been a lot of them, but like, neither guy quit, neither guy wilted, and it was a slugfest. And then it, went into the grappling later in the fight, which is something you don't really see unless there's a finish, and there wasn't a finish. But he has that experience, which I mean, granted, Brian has experience of his own, and they're very different, but that's what I think makes this fight interesting.
What's this guy's his style mainly?
He's like a short, stocky powerhouse, but he's very fast twitch, and he's got the gas tank, which is something that a lot of people overlook, but he trains at a very high level gym. He trains at Killcliff, and he's entrenched himself in that system. But the thing is, there's a difference like between going through that process and like trying to recreate yourself instead of building off of previous things that you already know you're capable of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's part of the reason I think Brian has an edge, is because he's more than a complete fighter. He's somebody that builds on previous skills, rather than trying to force something brand new that may be unfamiliar or uncomfortable to him in the heat of the moment.
Yeah, definitely. So it looks like they actually have the same amount of fights.
Yeah, they're very similar in experience in terms of like records.
Yeah, they both had 13 fights, but Brian is 11-2, Lusa is 10-3.
And what should I say about Brian? Well, Brian's been finishing guys that have never been finished before in their career, and that's something that you don't really see too often in a guy that's still on the come up in the UFC. Usually it's like they have established themselves in the rankings and are the guy to beat, and he is already kind of just putting that to the wayside as he's on the come up. Whereas Losa, he's in these tough fights. Like his last fight, I think, was against Reese McKee, and towards the end of the fight, McKee took everything Losa gave him and was starting to put it on Losa. So like, there's just certain factors considering both guys' previous fights that you got to look into. But I would be lying if I said that I'm not almost certain of a Bryan Battle finish.
I believe it 100%. 100%. I'm betting the whole bank on it, man.
Yes, sir. The butcher coming.
Yeah, Brian, you got to finish this guy, or else I don't know if I can pay my light bill. You know what I'm saying? So you got to make this happen.
DraftKings is legal in the Carolinas now, man. So you never know. Somebody might bet the actual house payment on Bryan Battle.
Yeah, a couple of my boys, Blake. Shout out to Blake. He's the dude who also co-hosts this with me. I know he has some good money on Brian getting a finish.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Let's go, butcher.
I think he will. He's the butcher for a reason. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. For sure.
It's funny because often when I I didn't realize how often I say "nah, I'm saying" or something like that. But now whenever I'm talking about him and I say it, it seems very ironic.
Yeah.
It's like "nah, I'm saying," but then it's like, oh, that's literally his.
That's his
catchphrase.
shtick. Yeah, and he makes it work so well because it's authentic every time he says it. It's not forced, in my opinion. It's just a part of who he is.
Yeah, it's like it's funny because when he was first saying it, I was like, is he trying to make a joke? But I realized no one else was reacting.
Yeah.
So then I realized like, oh nah, he just literally says it all the time.
Nah, I can rock with authenticity like that for sure.
Heck yeah, man. So all right, banger of a card in UFC 300.
Oh yeah, so many intriguing fights from prelims all the way to the main event. But before we get into some of those prelim fights, which I think are more deserving of a main card spot than some of the main card fights.
Ooh.
We got to get into that main event because it was booked so late, in my opinion. Don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, do you think it was booked late or announced late?
Both, because I don't know if you like watch Nelk. I don't watch Nelk, but I'm on TikTok so much, like just kind of trying to keep up with the fight game in terms of like what's being booked and what's being canceled. Because in the MMA world, there's a lot of cancellations and rebookings and last minute replacements and all this type of stuff. But it was very obvious when they were trying to get a main event for UFC 300 that it was like a struggle. Because I heard reports of the UFC reaching out to John Jones, who is still recovering from that torn pec that took him out of the fight with Stipe originally. And then I'm pretty sure they reached out to a ton of people. And I feel like Gaethje versus Holloway would have been a decent main event for that card. But
For 300?
Yeah. But there's a storyline also to Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill. Because if you remember at the beginning of 2023, Jamal Hill fought Glover Teixeira in Brazil for the light heavyweight championship. And he beat Glover, like, convincingly. Like, put a beating on him for 5 rounds. And Pereira and Glover are like this now. So
okay, so we do got a little story
exactly
behind it. Okay.
And Pereira was in Glover's corner for that fight. So
oh really?
Yeah.
All right, so he got to watch him fight up close. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, and it's if you think about it, like you got to assume Pereira's going in there to avenge his boy type deal. That's 100%. How I look at it.
Honestly, I'm familiar with Jamal Hill, but like not enough to like really be super confident in him against Alex. Just because I know, bro, Pereira's a dog, dude. He's really a dog. And even with his fight with Izzy, bro, like, I love Izzy, and I'm glad that that's how it happened. That's what I needed to happen. But at the end of the day, like, he's also just not in that weight class.
Yeah, who you talking about, Pereira?
Yeah,
he's not built for 180. He kills himself to make 185 pounds. Like,
yeah, and then he's eating things he don't need to, like, eat those shots after that weight cut. Like, he only did it to fight Izzy for the storyline.
Yeah.
So I'm glad it happened. I respect it. But I don't think he's ever going to go back down there.
No, I don't think so either. I don't think he should because he's also a lot older. Like, in terms of actual age, he's like mid to late 40s. And when you are depleting your body like that at that age, it has a much more significant toll.
Well, Pereira's 36.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, as you get older, those weight cuts are a lot more tough on your body.
No, yeah, definitely. Oh, wow, they're matched up pretty good.
in terms of size and weight and reach?
Yeah, they're both 6'3". They both have the reach 79 inches. Like, they're matched up pretty well.
I think there's a lot of things about Jamal Hill that get overlooked in terms of, like, his style as a whole. Like, I think he's a much more complete fighter than people give him credit for. Because I remember he was one of the guys that I had an eye on during COVID, because I remember he fought Ovin St. Preux. And I hadn't seen too many Jamal Hill fights before he fought OSP. So I was on the OSP wave, just assuming, OSP is the guy that's the one true test for you to make it into the light heavyweight rankings. And Jamal Hill put them hands on him like something crazy. And shout out to Swalt, Stephen Walther, my boy. He's the one that said Jamal Hill was going to be a champion in like 2020. He called it. And he experienced that loss to Paul Craig. You remember that? He fought Paul Craig, and Paul Craig put him in such a nasty armbar that, like...
Oh, is that the one that broke his arm?
Yeah. That was the fight.
Was that a loss or no contest?
No, that was a loss. That was a loss. And
did he tap, though? He didn't tap.
He didn't tap, bro. That's what I'm saying. Jamal is a menace. He didn't tap, and he ate some elbows, and then the ref jumped in, and it was called a TKO rather than a submission, even though his elbow was, like, already out of place.
That's crazy.
I'm saying, bro.
Hey, I respect that, though.
That's what I'm saying. There's little things like that.
You're not breaking my shit.
Yeah. I live to fight another day. You know what I mean?
But nah, I mean, you do need that kind of mindset going in there.
Yeah, for sure. Especially, he's already at the highest level, so you might as well just say fuck it at that point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what do you think the power exchange between these two are going to be? Like, obviously, we know Alex got them stone hands.
Yeah, bro.
But does Jamal have a lot of knockout finishes?
He is actually, now that I think about it, you remember his knockout against Johnny Walker?
I don't think I watched that one.
He caught Johnny Walker on a perfectly timed, like, I think it was an overhand right or an overhand left. It was like a rear-handed shot, depending on which stance he was in, because he switches stances, but he threw an overhand right, and it timed it perfectly and caught Johnny Walker right on the temple, and he sent him flailing back, arms up in the air, like Johnny Walker had no control of his body, and then Jamal pounced on him with a follow-up shot, like that was on the button. Like, he has got a lot more underrated accuracy and precision and just ability to find the mark than people give him credit for, which is something that, considering Alex has shown to have a button, could play a factor. That's all I'm saying.
I agree with that, because he does have that button, but I feel like a part of that also was with the weight cut.
Yeah.
So we're going to see how that goes, see how it is overall. But, I mean, who do you want to win?
Who do I want to win? Honestly, I want Pereira to win to get retribution for Glover, because what Jamal Hill did to Glover was kind of disrespectful. It wasn't even disrespectful. It was just like, he beat him so badly in front of his home crowd, and it's just, there's a lot of moments in MMA that kind of make you feel like, damn, that's the harsh reality of the sport, and that was one of them. And I think Pereira is trying to get it back in blood, but that's the thing about Jamal Hill, is he is not one to just give it back easily, which is why I think this fight is so intriguing.
Yeah.
It's like, regardless of the fact that it was a late booked fight, it still has a lot of intrigue to it.
Yeah, it's funny, bro, because I didn't really start noticing Jamal Hill till he was on his come up. But like, honestly, bro, like he didn't even look that athletic. Like he honestly surprised me.
He does a lot of things right that go unnoticed, because it's like you would assume that everybody would know how to do it. But like, people don't think to do it in the moment that it's supposed to be executed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, 100%. He has good fight IQ.
Oh, he's got very high fight IQ.
And that takes you really far, bro. Really far. If you got the right fight IQ, you'll beat guys you have no business beating.
Yeah.
At all.
There's another fight on that card on UFC 300 that it got a main card spot, and I know a lot of people on the internet were disagreeing with the fact that it did, and that's Bo Nickel versus Cody Brundage. When you take into consideration the fact that there's former champions on the prelims like Davison Figueiredo, Cody Garbrandt, Yuri Prohaska, and they're not getting a main card slot over Bo Nickel, who's, I get it, trying to be built by the UFC because he's such a talented wrestler, an accomplished collegiate wrestler. It just, I don't know. It strikes a nerve with you in a way, because don't you think former champs should have like a better opportunity, more of a platform?
No, yeah, I definitely do. I guess I'll have to play devil's advocate because I definitely understand why they would, but I also understand them being like, "Yo, this is who people are excited to watch fight right now."
True.
You know, because like when you're a former champ, like you've headlined your own cards. You know what I mean? You had your time.
True.
But and I think it really, it's a business. It just depends on who do they want to come see fight. I know Bo Nickel. He's riding his hype train right now. That his last fight, it was impressive.
The thing is, though, is he's fought two guys that are, in terms of like his time in the fight game, in the MMA game, still have. I mean, Jamie Pickett was his debut fight. Jamie Pickett's got way more experience than Bo Nickel in terms of MMA, but Bo Nickel has a lifetime of grappling in his back pocket.
Facts.
And then Val Woodburn was a last minute replacement for Trayshawn Gore, somebody that Brian Battle has already defeated. And, that fight got replaced because Trayshawn Gore got hurt, and he got Val Woodburn, who took the fight on short notice in a debut. So circumstances play a lot into, career trajectory and, like, the outlook on all that type of stuff. But I just think that in terms of, like, the matchups themselves, like, Davison Figueiredo versus Cody Garbrandt, in my mind, is a banger fight that should be on the main card.
Definitely.
It's not that I don't think Bo Nickel deserves to be on the main card, because like you said, he's riding his hype train. He's the guy that people want to see fight. But stylistic matchups are what get me more excited than hype itself.
Yeah, but every fight on this main card is a exciting fight. It is a fight that people are gonna want to watch. Like, this isn't one of the main cards where like I'll walk away.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I agree. And honestly, it feels like it's been that way with the past couple of UFC pay-per-views. They've all been really good.
Definitely. I'm excited to see that Gaethje Holloway fight, bro.
Yeah, it's gonna be wild seeing how Max looks at lightweight, because he is a career-long featherweight. And when he fought Poirier, like a couple years back, I think it was 2019, he was a ballooned-up featherweight. He said it himself. He was a bloated featherweight. He wasn't like a legitimate lightweight for that fight.
He said Max said that about himself?
Yeah, he said that about himself.
Got you.
He said that about himself. And he's had more time to actually acclimate his body to properly going into a lightweight bout. And, I mean, Justin Gaethje is just a monster. Like, you're never in for an easy fight against him.
I am that's going to be a banger.
I think that's going to be fight of the night.
Yeah, he's honestly, like, they could have built more of a card around that. Not to say that the Alex and Jamal fight's not going to be dope, but just for the fans, I think the fans are really going to love the Justin Max fight.
But don't you think, and this is kind of a devil's advocate comment, don't you think, like, Max has a lot more say at 145 currently, with Ilya being the new champ, than he does going up to 155 and fighting Gaethje?
Yeah, but if I'm gonna be honest too, I don't see Holloway beating Ilya.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
I
I
don't
just
see
don't.
anybody beating Ilya at 45.
I don't want to see Max go fight the champ. I just don't. I'm tired of seeing him fight Volk. And
yeah, they did fight for 3 times.
And I just don't think he has the power with Ilya. You know what I mean? Like, you got to have that power with him. You can't just be touching him up.
Yeah.
Like, you got to have the power, or else he's going to come back with the power. If you don't have the power to knock him out, he's not going to respect your power. Then he's going to get close enough to knock you out.
Yeah, facts.
And if he touches you, bro, we've seen it happen time after time. If he touches you, it's happening, bro.
Yeah. And he's a button finder for sure.
I could see him going up to 55. That'd be pretty cool.
He's already got a knockout at 55 also. That crazy overhand right that he got on Jai Herbert. Mm-hmm. It's like a viral clip at this point. That was a lightweight fight.
Yeah, I don't know, man. You think Volk's gonna retire?
I don't know if he's gonna retire, but I think he should definitely take more time off than he is like anticipating, because when you come off 2 knockout losses and they're like, so the head kick was rough, but it wasn't bad because he didn't get knocked spark out. But then he took like anywhere between, it was October to February. That's like 4 months, more or less. And then you get knocked out again. I think you should at least take a year off so you can let your brain recover like that. If you want to keep fighting, you know?
Yeah, Ilya put his lights out.
Exactly. It was a clean KO. It was flush. It wasn't like with Islam, he got caught with the head kick and he wobbled and he fell over. So it was a TKO. He got put straight up out against Ilya. And I think that after that, it's worth taking extended time to recover if you want to get back to the level that you were once at.
No, I definitely agree with that.
Recovery is super important.
I think you know, I like his mentality. I think that's a part of what made him a champion. Mm-hmm. But I feel like that could also be a part of his demise. Like he's just like, nah, I got it. I feel fine. I feel like that's how he feels. He thinks about it as I feel fine, not necessarily as this is an organ I gotta like take care of.
Exactly.
Because like. Man, I don't know, man. Even with the second fight with him and Islam, bro, like you don't take that on short notice.
Yeah, and yeah.
With how close the first one went,
not even that. Islam is a killer, bro. Like he is. I think in terms of like being a finisher and like a complete fighter who's actually dangerous anywhere, Islam doesn't get enough credit. Like he is a killer. His striking is better than Khabib's.
Facts.
He submitted Charles Oliveira. Like that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was out there with the hands. You know, like There's people he'd be out there like literally like kickboxing with, and he got the Oliveira submission. Like he's a dog, bro.
Yeah.
And I just felt like I understand the first fight was really close, blah blah blah, but it's like, bro, you did not have that same training camp.
Yep.
He was like, oh, you know, now I don't have to worry about the mental side of it, you know, being worried, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I don't got time for that. But it's like, bro, that's a part of what makes your training better.
Yeah, that's what elevates you in a way.
Yeah, you don't just go fight the number one dude. Less than 2 weeks? Yeah, I'll do it. And he said he was drinking like a pint a day leading up to that, which also makes me very worried for him just as far as like the mentality goes.
Yeah.
Because I mean I get it. You get to the top of the sport and it's just like, what now? Like
right.
What does he have next? Whatever he does next in his life won't be as big as fighting. And you know, it's different for dudes like that versus dudes like maybe like Izzy or Sean. We'll get to that fight after, but Izzy, Sean, like these dudes, like outside of fighting, they got a lot of stuff that they got going for them that they can keep things going. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But a dude like Volk, like, you know, I love him, bro. He's a real bro's bro. But like I don't know what he has outside of fighting. When he's not fighting, we're not really like paying attention.
Yeah, well, and I think that's just because when he's not fighting, he's a family man. And I think something that would help him a lot is coaching. I mean, look at Brian. Brian was under Volk when he was on The Ultimate Fighter. Mm-hmm. And True. A lot of the things that Volk implemented into Brian, like that fight simulator concept, like it benefits him, you know?
Oh, that came from Volk?
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure cool. I heard Brian mention that at one point or another. And, you know, coaching is a great way to stay connected to the game without being entirely in the fire, you know?
But I don't see a dude. All right, let me say this. I see Volk being a great coach, but I see him just not even in like an egotistical, like negative way, but I feel like he wants that spotlight.
Yeah.
Like he's not trying to be behind the scenes. Because even in The Ultimate Fighter, when he's a coach, he still has that spotlight, and he's still getting ready for his own fight.
This is true.
So, I mean, maybe, but I don't know. I don't want to see him retire.
No, I don't
But
either.
I don't want to see him, like, go out the way he's going out.
Right. No, you don't want to see it get worse from here. You want, and a lot of people, like you said, they get to that highest level, and then, you know, a couple setbacks don't even phase them, and they're like, I'm good. I can keep going through it. I can push through it. I'm a champ. Mm-hmm. But, like, you only get one brain, and if you don't protect it, especially in combat sports, it's going to come back to haunt you. And not even after the fact, but, like, in the fights themselves.
Yeah. I feel like when it's your time, it's your time, bro. Because even like I'm not a big Henry Cejudo fan at all, but I think he's an idiot, especially for like coming back and then just not even like like he just came back and just messed up everything he had. Like,
Yeah,
like he ended on top and was like, "I'm not done." Came back and now he tried to retire again, retire, bro. Like you already left. Now you're losing, and the way he lost, like if that's his last fight, that Merab fight, like that's just embarrassing.
I've seen reports that he's not calling it quits yet. He's gonna keep going, and I mean, I respect him for it. But like you said, you shouldn't have retired when he shouldn't have retired when he did. You know, he should have kept defending the belts.
Well, he wanted to retire to get all, go out on top, which I don't think nothing's wrong with that. But Cheeto said it. He was like, there's two things that either happen. He went broke or he wanted attention.
Yeah.
And I feel like he was looking at the division like, oh, I could beat these guys, but he can't.
Yeah, like you can't take yourself out of the equation and then like it's like almost disrespectful to the game,
100%.
It's disrespectful to the game for you to just think you could jump back in and hang with those guys at the highest level. Like, don't get it twisted. His fight with Aljo was competitive, but Aljo was like a very favorable style for Henry to go in there and win, and he didn't win.
Mm-hmm.
And Merab is a nightmare matchup for anybody, but Henry should have the wrestling on paper to beat him, and he didn't.
Merab picked him up. Walk to the other side. Walk to Mark Zuckerberg. That's disrespectful.
Nah, that's crazy.
Like,
and then, but then
Zuck.
when he put him down, he didn't put him down gently either. He like Batista bombed him to the ground.
Boom! Like all Henry could have done was like brace for that impact.
Pretty much.
Like that's all he could have done. He was just ran across the octagon. I know in his mind he was like, "This is not good."
He was like, "What the fuck, dude?
This is not good. Who is this guy? Like this is not good."
Now that we're on the topic of bantamweight, though, do you think O'Malley versus Topuria should happen? Because a lot of people don't, and I'm on that same boat. But like Corey Sandhagen and Merab are like two guys that I just think deserve a crack at a championship in some way, shape, or form.
I think I understand he wants that that fight at 45, but I feel like he needs to run it with Merab.
Yeah.
Like he needs to run it with Merab. I think Sandhagen is a really good matchup for him. I think if he beats both of those dudes, gets a finish over either of them, then that definitely gives him that opportunity to go fight Ilya. But even honestly, him versus Ilya, I don't even see it being a hard fight for him, just because stylistically, I think he's just gonna have good footwork.
Yeah,
and
he's
just
a problem.
not get close. You know what I mean? He's gonna touch him up.
Yep.
He's not gonna do what he did to Cheeto, because it's going to be too risky.
Yeah, he
too
understands
risky.
that it's playing with fire a lot more so with Ilya in the pocket, entering into the pocket more so than Cheeto for sure.
Yeah, Ilya in the pocket, like he might, you might counter him, but if he also lands, and Sean gets caught with those body shots, bro.
Yeah, he does.
I don't know if it's from that time where he hurt his rib before the Aljo fight, but I don't think he's eating those body shots from Ilya, bro.
Hell no, he's not. Ilya's body punching is second to none in the UFC. Like, he chops you down like a tree, especially if you're longer than him, too. Mm-hmm. That's something that he takes. He's a very smart fighter because against Jai Herbert, another, for example, again, and Damon Jackson, two guys that were longer and taller than him, he chopped both of them down like a tree and found the button on both of them.
Yeah.
And Sean is longer than Ilya, so
I like Sean though, bro. I like Sean. I like what he's doing.
Yeah.
I think the only time we really saw him in a difficult fight was that Jan fight.
Oh yeah.
And people are, that was a little, for me, a little too close to even call. Like, I'm like,
either guy could have won, right?
Yeah,
exactly. Like, that's what I've been saying since the fight happened.
When the fight happened, initially, I did think Jan had it.
Yeah.
And then when they gave it to Shauna, it wasn't like he got robbed. It was like all right, let me
go back and watch it. Exactly.
But even Sean, like afterwards, I don't think Sean thought he won that fight.
Exactly. And in my opinion, in terms of activity and output and like optics to the judges, he definitely did more. But if you look at numbers and damage. and control, it was Pewter. Mm-hmm. And speaking of Pewter, can we just rejoice in the fact that he also won at UFC 299? He snapped his 3-fight skid.
Yeah,
Former champion.
I was afraid for him, bro. I was like, this is going downhill. sometimes it just takes someone beating you for other opponents to be like, oh, this is possible.
Yeah, this is very much true. But he fought very tough stylistic matchups all the time. Like Merab is a nightmare for anybody. Who else did he lose to? I mean, the Sterling rematch was a super close fight.
Sterling just had a good game plan.
Yep.
He knew what to do.
Exactly. He had the control time. Like that's all it was in his back pocket. But then the O'Malley fight was also super close. So like his losses have aged really well. And Song Yadong I think was like the perfect test to see whether or not those losses actually had an effect on his ability and his position in the division. And he hung tough. And I think he beat Song. It was a close fight. It was a competitive fight, but I think he edged that one out for sure. He deserved that win more so, considering everything that's happened in the past.
You think he'll get the belt again?
I think if there's one guy who was a former champion that's still active, like, you know what I mean? He has the best chance of it.
Yeah. I feel like if there's anyone that Sean needs to rematch with, obviously the Cheeto thing because of his whole undefeated blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but he already proved that point.
I was going to say, after that, I'm like, you know what? The perennial nerve thing, I wasn't really, not like I wasn't buying it, but I was just like, it's a little weird. But after seeing the clinic he put on, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give you that drop foot because you did something. You did something there.
And you know something else that I think played a huge factor in their rematch that a lot of people weren't initially taking into consideration was the fact that their first fight was in a way smaller cage. It was in the Apex. And that doesn't allow Sean, somebody who's very good with movement and footwork, to be able to be as free. And they had more space in the rematch, and Sean took full advantage of that.
So with the cage sizes, how does that work? Like, is it just at random, or is it like, you know what I mean? Like if our title fight's supposed to be at a certain cage in a certain size?
No, I think it's just that. So with the Apex, right, the UFC Apex, like it was a facility first and foremost. So it wasn't like a state athletic commission regulated cage.
Yeah.
But since the UFC was putting events on under their roof, that was the cage that they used, and it was like more of a training size cage, like what we have at the gym.
Makes sense.
Yeah, whereas in like arenas, they have a lot more like crew to like actually build or put together a larger platform, and it's not that big of a difference, but in terms of like how it can shape out a fight, it's a big difference.
Especially movement.
Yeah.
When especially with the bigger dudes.
Yeah.
You know, when there's you're already taking up so much space in there.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, how do you feel about the Sugar era?
I don't mind the Sugar era, bro. I just think that I don't want to see him jump up a weight class yet, you know? Like, the bantamweight division's a Shark Tank. There's guys who haven't gotten title shots, who deserve title shots, and I want to see those fights. I'm a realist in terms of MMA fandom, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the Sugar era. I'm here for it. I feel like in the bantamweight division, there's a lot of dudes who he'll be like a problem for.
Oh, yeah.
I just feel like if he goes up to featherweight, it's just... he has the size on a lot of people,
and he's smart enough to like put it on properly so that he sizes up well against a lot of those guys.
100%.
He's not one of the like people give O'Malley a lot of shit because of how he perceives himself like on social media, but he is so dialed in. Like, he's one of the most disciplined guys.
100%. He honestly, it's super inspiring because it's funny because like people know O'Malley's brand for being like, oh, he's a big pothead, blah, blah, blah. But, like, he says he doesn't even smoke that much, bro.
Yeah, it's really for, like, not even recover. I feel like he just does it in his downtime. Like, after he's won his fight and he's celebrating, that's when he'll probably let it rip. But, like, once you get to that level, it's you got to kind of, you know, you got to dial it in.
The micro stuff, bro. The micro stuff, the little stuff. That makes the big difference.
Yeah.
I've been watching him for a while, and him and Tim, like the things they do for recovery with the red light, the saunas, the cold plunges, and stuff like that, bro. That's really, I think that's a part of what got him to where he is.
Yeah, it allows you to elevate your training because you're not worried about going into a session with like lingering aches and stuff like that. So you can kind of just let everything go and see what works and what doesn't, and then build off of that rather than worrying about getting hurt.
Yeah. Another reason I don't think that he would do very good at 45 is just after every fight, dude's banked up. Even if he won the fight. Like, look at Cheeto. Like, Cheeto's face is done, but, like, Cheeto, he's straight. Probably got to, like, get some surgery on something.
Yeah, it probably maybe had, like, a broken cheekbone, but, like, Sean had a boot and a cast on afterwards. Is that what you were going to get to? Yeah, I saw that, too.
The boot, the cast, before he had his, like, rib injury. I feel like... I don't want to call him fragile because that's not the word I want to use, but I don't know if he's durable enough to like take on the bigger sizes.
Don't you think maybe if in putting that extra size on, don't you think it would kind of benefit his durability a little bit?
No, because I don't think that. I think his cut is perfect for 35.
Yeah.
I think 45 wouldn't really be a big cut for him because if I'm not mistaken, he walks around under 60.
Oh, really? Yeah, so 45 is like nothing to him, basically.
Yeah, it'd be an easy cut, which might be good for him to like energy levels and whatnot.
Yeah.
But just as in terms of like the dudes that are cutting to make that weight and that like they just got the size on you.
Right.
Because even Cheetos, he's a pretty big 35er.
Yeah, but he's a disciplined 35er. Like, he doesn't allow himself to balloon back up. Like, a lot of guys win their fights, and they just kind of say, fuck it for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And, like, I'm not going to say, like, I'm not there to see it, so I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, they get carried away. But, everybody indulges a little bit after a rewarding victory of some sort.
100%, bro. I've done it with small wins. Like, It's easy to, do good and be like, let me do that for one day. No, 2 days. It turns into a week. And then, and honestly, it's not even the indulging. It's when you indulge and now you got to get back to training and you got to get yourself back there.
Yep.
Like,
it's the catch up. You're playing catch up, basically. Mm-hmm. I hate playing catch up, bro.
Yeah.
It's real. It's real.
Yeah. It's crazy because you see dudes after wins versus losses. And it's like those dudes after a loss, especially a close loss, bro.
Yeah.
They are locked in.
Exactly.
Super locked in. Speaking of which, did you catch the Fury FC fights this weekend?
Oh yeah. Well, so I didn't watch the whole card, but I sure as hell watched that main event between our boy Shamik Harvey and Paris Moran, and all the credit in the world to Shamik because despite the circumstances, he went in there and gave that dude a run for his money. Mm-hmm. And I rewatched that fight last night, actually, interestingly enough, while I was running on the treadmill. And, dude, it was a lot more competitive than what the scorecard said.
It was a super competitive fight. For those of you who don't know, Shamik is someone from our local 704 area.
Yep, from Carolina Combat Sports representing
TCS,
as well.
Yes, sir. And then the fight was in Texas, where I think that's where Paige is from, right?
Yeah, that he's based in Texas.
Yeah, he's based in Texas. So
it was a home field fight for him.
Meek had to go there as well as cut weight, and there was 15 hours worth of delays in the airport.
Yeah.
Bro wasn't able to get the rest or whatever, but no excuses because regardless of anything, that was a super competitive fight, bro.
Yeah.
Super competitive fight. And I feel like when you get to that level, it's just not even like hard to get ready for these fights, but it's just like you need the partners who can imitate what that person's doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And obviously, personally, I feel like it's an easier fight for Paris versus Meek as far as like finding the people to train with because first off, Paris is a really good southpaw.
Yeah.
Where like you might find a southpaw, but like, are they at that level?
That's what I'm saying.
And then your training partners who are at that level, you're gonna be like, can you fight southpaw? Where it just takes one head kick where they're like, I don't like being southpaw.
Right. And that shit's real, bro. Like, it's a game of inches at every moment, and sometimes you don't realize how significant those little, measurements of distance like can accumulate to until the fight's going down. And that's when it matters the most because that's when you really see what you're made of because you could crash right through those little inches of distance or you could give in. And Meek didn't give in. He was crashing through the entire time. Like, from the start, from the first round to the fifth round, it was walk him down Meek. Like,
yeah,
Paris,
100%.
Paris has good distance management, which was the only thing that was edging him in the fight because Meek was relentless.
I think it was. I didn't see the scorecards per se, but I think it was a super close fight. I think there were Paris had a couple moments where, like, optically, it was like, all right, that's not what we wanted it to look
Right,
like.
right. But then you go back and look after the fact, like in those little moments, and Meek will get his get back immediately almost.
Yeah.
It just doesn't look as crazy as it did on the flip side.
Mm-hmm.
But the crazy thing about that is he's so early in his career, and Paris has maybe one more fight than him in his career. But the thing is, the level that Paris has fought at up to that point in comparison to Meek, he's been 5 rounds already. That was Meek's first 5-round fight, if I'm not mistaken. And
I think so.
And he went the distance. Like, that is incredible experience for him.
Yeah, 100%. I think, honestly, one thing I will say, though, I'll give it to Paris. I was very impressed with his takedown defense. I did not expect that.
Yeah, no, me neither. He looked to be very strong. Like he
looked a lot stronger than I thought. Like, I was like, what the fuck? Like,
yeah, for real.
Didn't make sense.
Because we know Meek. Meek's got explosive takedown entries.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing, too, is like, the commentary was saying it during the fight. It's like you could do all the hard rounds you want and all that. Nothing's gonna quite prepare you for that fatigue that sets in during a fight. And the only reason that I can attest to this, even in the slightest, is because when I did that tough man competition, like the rounds were only a minute long, but that means that you had to go full blast for that minute in its entirety. And by the time that minute's up, you're spent. So it's on you to rejuvenate within the in between rounds. And I know that feeling. So when you add takedowns, clinch work, knees, kicks, using your entire body, it's different.
Yeah, definitely. But, we only get better.
Yeah, it's only up from here. Like that, it's literally only up from here for Meek and for the gym, for sure.
Oh, yeah. I know Meek gonna have something to prove, and these fight team practices gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
They're gonna be crazy.
Yeah,
This
y'all
bro
about
gotta
to
get
be
his
going
get back.
stupid. I wanted to kind of segue into a different combat sport because around the same time that UFC 300 is going down, it's like I think a week after UFC 300 is Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and the build up to that has been something else, for lack of a better term. Like,
I wouldn't even call it the build up. It's just Ryan's losing it.
Yeah, he's just doing the most, like the absolute most. And did you watch their press conferences?
Some. I've seen I
the
saw
clips.
the highlights.
You saw the clips. It was just negative. With my casual Roundhouse media, like I post various TikToks just talking about combat sports nowadays because life makes you inconsistent with that type of stuff sometimes. But regardless, I definitely posted about Ryan Garcia because since those press conferences and all the dirty laundry that got aired out, he's basically just like gone on a one-man mission to try and expose as much as he can as far as like Hollywood and what goes on in Hollywood. And I don't know if it's him actually just kind of like saying fuck it and just throwing everything up out there, or if he's just trying to build publicity for the fight. But like I'm kind of interested because I see clips of Ryan training still. It doesn't seem like this is all that he's concerned about, all that he's caught up in. I just don't know what's going on that other side, and I am curious about that.
Yeah, it's sad because like it honestly looks like bro's going through like mental stuff. Yeah. I know previously he said that, he was dealing with anxiety and depression and whatnot.
Yeah, like after the Tank loss?
Nah, before that.
Yeah. When he fought like Josh Taylor.
Yeah, before that he said that Tank loss, was that his first loss?
Mm-hmm.
It was his first loss. I think he's like 24-1.
Yeah, he's still a legit fighter, bro. Like,
then he had like 20 knockouts too.
Yeah, and when you go back and watch the Tank fight, he brought the fight to Tank. It wasn't like he was trying to go out there and play it safe and win a decision. Like, he's a fighter, bro.
He brought the fight to Tank, but then he got sat down and was like,
he's like, all right, I got to chill a little bit. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Tank came through with that power. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not super familiar with Devin Haney. I know of him just because he's been doing some podcasts with like Bradley Martin and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, he got into the conversation of like, Bradley Martin being like me versus you in a street fight.
I've seen this clip. Yeah. He's like,
so
I'll kill you, bro.
Yeah, that's kind of how I got a little bit more like involved with like his stuff. But I don't know. Who do you see this fight going to?
I think Devin Haney's going to win, but here's the thing. If Ryan is really doing all this just to build the fight and he's busting his ass in the gym without telling a soul, you got to respect that, because I'm sure that's establishing a bit of fear in the mind of Devin Haney. Like, you got to think, he ain't pulling out of this fight, Ryan. Mm-hmm. And Devin is doing everything that he knows is right for his preparation, because he's undefeated. He's a champion. He's beat Lomachenko. He's beat, like, a bunch of, I can't name them off the top of my head, but he's beaten a bunch of legit guys. And so obviously everything that he thinks is right in his process, he's not going to be able to second guess, especially if he doesn't know, like, what Ryan's doing. And I think that plays a factor a lot.
Yeah. No, I think so. I think it either does one or two things. Either it does put a little fear in his heart, or it's making him underestimate Ryan.
Yeah.
Thinking, this guy's not in the right headspace for this fight, which he might not be wrong, but he might go into it all, thinking overly confident,
right,
not having that little bit of fear, which might protect him.
Yeah. No, you're right. And I feel like Ryan's kind of going into this fight with a lack of fear almost. Like, I feel like he just doesn't care what happens almost.
Yeah, I low key, I think he didn't know how to handle that last loss.
When you take into consideration that he, like, is a big influence on social media, especially, and that's like where he does a lot of his promotion and communicating with his fans, and that's the only, like, place that he kind of feels safe. It definitely plays a factor when you experience a loss, because you have to, like, take yourself out of that whole realm and accept reality. Mm-hmm. And that's not easy.
Especially the way he lost.
Yeah.
The stuff behind the scenes of his issues with his coach, mm-hmm. the fact that there was a potential rat who told him about his, like, pre-existing injury.
Yep.
There's a lot of stuff that goes into it where it's like, I could definitely see why this is
Boxing is a very dirty business. Mm-hmm. It's a pure sport, but it's a dirty business.
Yeah, no. The thing is, though, I like the business of boxing a little better just because it's not... I love the UFC.
No, fighters benefit way more in boxing than in MMA, for sure.
But, bro, Francis Ngannou getting knocked down was insane.
Dude, I have no words for that, Like, I was shocked when it happened, and then it just kind of, like, when you brought it up, it just replayed in my mind real quick. Like, I never thought I'd see somebody that looks like Francis get just slept like that.
Flatlined. Completely flatlined.
Especially by somebody like Anthony Joshua, who somewhat similarly to Ryan Garcia has, like, experienced that side of defeat that kind of messes with your mental, and he's had to fight back from that because he has 2 losses to Alexander Usyk, who is actually fighting Tyson Fury soon, and he has just bounced back in such an impressive way since then. And I think this was, like, not the icing on the cake, but this was just, like, another step up in terms of the resurgence of Anthony Joshua.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, I'm surprised that happened to Tyson. I mean, Ngannou, especially after the Tyson fight.
Yeah.
Seeing how he was so competitive, knocked Tyson down.
Tyson didn't train for that fight as if it was a title fight, though.
Yeah, I think he was sleeping on him.
Oh, 100%. He was going in there thinking he was going to have some fun and, box him up for 7 to 8 rounds and then be able to get him out of there late. But Francis has the heart of a lion, bro. He don't quit on himself. You have to put him out. And the way Joshua put him out was insane. A big man should not tumble like that.
He flatlined him, almost blew his knee out the way he fell. Like, bro, that was insane. I mean, hey, but Francis done it to so many people.
Yep.
And it's just like all of the knockouts he's given out just came back to him.
Yeah, I guess you could say what goes around comes around. That's harsh, but it's real.
No, karma, bro. That's the world we live in. And were his only 2 boxing matches that one and the Tyson one?
Yeah, which is insane when you think about it.
So he's only lost as a boxer.
Yeah. Well, no, he's lost in MMA.
No, I meant like...
as far as his record goes?
Wins.
Yeah, he doesn't have wins in boxing.
I know he's going back to going to PFL to do some MMA now. You know what? I hope this guy gets paid because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, I feel like for him, that's really what it's about.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a monetary thing. He's just trying to get his money up, which he had to because the UFC wasn't paying him, so he had to go out there and figure out how to make that bread.
yeah, and honestly, it kind of makes sense because he was just putting forth crazy performances during his time in the UFC. Like the way he was putting people out and the way he was just kind of steamrolling the competition, it kind of warranted a couple zeros extra, in my opinion. I have no say in that, but like as a fan, you see that and you're like, they should be throwing money at this guy. And then, what are you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say yeah. Like
Yeah.
when you find out that dude's not getting paid, you're like, I mean, I get it, the popularity thing, but just to think that O'Malley was making more than the heavyweight champion,
Yeah.
is just like wow.
I also think that considering that he beat everybody on his come up the way he did, like there wasn't a lot of people for him to match up against as champion too. Like the Cyril fight was like the one fight where you kind of wonder what could happen, and then after that is like maybe Tom Aspinall, but he wasn't in that position just yet. There was just a lot of factors I think that warranted him getting out when he did. But I don't think he should keep boxing. I think he should go back to MMA, try and win that $1 million PFL tournament, and then just retire.
I really wanted to see him versus John Jones, but honestly, after that knockout, even though it wasn't even an MMA, but like
It still takes a toll on your ability to take a shot.
not even just that, just the hype around it.
No, that too.
Like this dude's never been knocked out, blah, and he's gonna fight the greatest of all time. Because
Yeah.
like now, like him and John Jones are pretty competitive. You know what I mean? But now it's just like after you see him take that shot, I mean, I don't think that John Jones would go in there and knock him out.
Yeah.
But I just think the lead up to it is a little less exciting. They should have done it when it should have been done, kind
Right.
of thing. I hate when fights don't happen when they're supposed to happen.
I mean, that's something that is something that's been happening long before like this time in the UFC, where the UFC is at its peak in terms of popularity. Like it's more mainstream than ever before, because the one fight that I can backtrack to in terms of not happening when it was supposed to happen is Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather. Like 2007, you had Floyd beating Oscar De La Hoya and basically saying like, there's nobody else for me. And then you had Pacquiao just steamrolling everybody saying, give me Floyd. And then we don't get that fight until 2015, and they're both basically like
Old.
Yeah, they're at like the latter stage of their career, and they're not the same fighter that they were because they had both been in a ton more fights from 2007 to the time that they fought. It just kind of makes you wonder. So I completely understand, and I agree.
Yeah, so what's your mentality with that, though? Do you think it's smart when fighters are like, I'm only going to take the fights I could win? Obviously, as far as like being a warrior, blah, blah, blah. But in terms of like, trying to make that money, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a double-edged sword for sure. But as a fighter, you gotta, in order to consider yourself a true fighter, you gotta take whoever's willing to take it from you.
100%. I definitely feel that.
That's just what it is, bro. Like, if you're trying to cherry pick your way to a padded record, not even a padded record, but kind of like plot and like do it at the right time. You're a businessman in a way. And it's not even business in terms of money, but it's business for yourself. And I just think a true fighter says yes to whatever and goes in there and lets it all hang out.
No, I could definitely agree with that. I mean, I hate when a fighter doesn't take the fight. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I mean.
But like you said, double-edged sword, because I definitely understand like having that, especially as a boxer, that 40-0 record.
Especially once you're already made, right? Like Floyd especially. He was still taking the risks even though he didn't have to, which you can respect. But the thing about it is he waited a long time to fight a lot of guys that if he would have fought them like when they were at their peak too, it would have been a way tougher fight for him.
100%. He just stayed in shape. Now he's just doing these exhibitions with anybody, literally anybody. Like
I still can't believe we live in a world where Floyd Mayweather boxed Deji.
Right, that's literally what I was thinking.
Yeah,
Deji got to fight Floyd Mayweather.
That's kind of crazy, bro.
And what's crazy is, like Deji was talking about it, all this stuff behind the scenes beforehand. They said, they're supposed to do like 12 or 14 ounces, and then Floyd was like, no, let's do 10. And he was like worried. And then apparently Floyd's camp was like, yeah, bro, we're just going in there to entertain the people. Yeah. If he's doing too much, just tell him, like, calm down. Yeah. And he said, like, after the first few hits, he was like, yo, calm down. And Floyd was like, shut up.
Yeah, no, for real. Floyd, bro, I think with somebody like Floyd and anybody that's been breeded in that type of environment from the time that from the time that you become a conscious human, you're in a boxing gym. Once you step in that ring and you've been doing it your whole life, it's like the switch just gets flipped in your mind. And there's no changing that because it's what you're so accustomed to.
Well,
I
realistically,
think that's what happened when he fought Deji.
If he would have went in there and had a competitive fight with Deji, people would be like, what the heck?
Yo, facts. They would have been like, what is happening right now?
They either be like, yo, Floyd lost it, or Deji's one of the greatest. And
yo, imagine. We would have had another Tyson Francis situation on our hands, more or less.
Yeah, man, I don't know, man. I like what Floyd's doing because it's entertaining, money, blah, blah, blah.
He's the only one that should be able to do that, though. These influencers who have, like, minimal amounts of athletic background or just any kind of, like, combat experience who just jump into a boxing match without actually, taking their ego out of it to learn the art. I can't respect that. Like, the Misfits guys, there's a lot of Misfits guys that have improved so greatly from the time that concept began to now, but then there's guys who just are there for clout and money, and I cannot respect that.
Yeah, why do you not respect it?
Because there's ulterior motives as to why you're showing up.
To the fight game.
Exactly.
Like, you gotta show respect to the fight. No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
It's one of the most brutal and vulnerable sports that we have. Like, it deserves its flowers.
It's barely a sport. I'm like, yo,
exactly.
It's a fight.
Exactly. And people and so many people that don't actually allow themselves to experience that in a way, like by either training or just, trying it in a gym. Like, boxing gyms are more ruthless than MMA gyms in terms of, like, being brought up. The sparring in boxing is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think boxing is more dangerous than MMA.
Yeah, I agree. You can, like, in MMA, you get dropped or you get knocked out or knocked down, it's over right then and there. There's no chance of you in boxing where you get dropped, you're concussed and probably unconscious, and you can will yourself back up before the count of 10 just to continue getting punched in the head.
Yeah, Francis got 2 concussions. For what?
Yeah, exactly. That's why I don't think his chin will ever be the same.
Yeah, because back-to-back like that? Yeah. Got knocked down, took the knee because he was like, oh, snap. I'm not back yet. Yeah. And then he was like, I'm out of time. I have to stand up. And then what the refs do to make sure you're good, they're just like, yeah, you're good. All right, let's keep fighting. It's like, bro was not good. Yeah, no. Bro did not look good.
He just got the heart of a lion, like I said. That's the only thing that was keeping him in it was the will. Yeah.
Right after. You good? Yeah. Bang. Out cold, bro. Are there any fights that you're excited to see?
So, yeah, but it's like super odd. So, Aljamain Sterling versus Calvin Kattar. It's a very striker versus grappler heavy matchup. Like, it's got that old school factor to it. You also have Calvin Kattar, who's been out of the game since I think the end of 2022. He tore his ACL against Arnold Allen, and this is his first fight back, and it's against a former champion who's going up in a weight class, and that's on the prelims of 300 as well. And I think that a matchup like that.
Wait, that's on the prelim?
Yes, bro.
Aljo's on the prelim?
Yes, bro.
Nah, all right, now I got a problem.
That's what I'm saying.
But the UFC just don't like Aljo, bro. Like, they have, like, and I know that's just like rumor, gossip, whatever, but it really does not seem like they favor Aljo.
Why should they though? He refused to fight his boy. Like, they don't, as a business, in terms of what the UFC is trying to do, they're trying to keep everything progressive. That completely ruins all their plans. And Aljo is he works for them, so you know what I mean?
No, I get it, but I feel like The Sean fight, I feel like they didn't give him the time that he was supposed to be given. I understand. Okay, I don't like how you won the title with the head kick thing, blah blah.
Yeah.
They don't like how he won the second fight, blah blah. But I just feel like, I don't know. I think a lot of the hate at first I felt like all the hate he got was unwarranted, but now that I see, like, bro just won't shut up.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm like, all right, man, you're kind of doing it to yourself. But I do think that the UFC's not giving him a fair shake.
No, I can agree with that. I will say, like, during his title reign, he established his own legacy, though. Like, you can't deny that. Just because TJ Dillashaw was on his way out, that doesn't mean that, like, the win against him is not legitimate. Like, Aljo went in there and did exactly what Aljo does to dominate fights against Dillashaw. And then he fought Cejudo, who's a former 2-division champion, and beat him by decision and beat him in a very, like, high-paced back and forth all around fight. It was striking, grappling, clinch, everything, and Aljo outlasted him. Like you said, I agree. The UFC just doesn't favor him, and there's a reason for it, and it's a stupid reason, all things considered. But I do think, in a way, he could have been given more time to prepare for that fight with Sean.
I think he should have, and
Yeah.
I don't like the fact that Sean didn't even want to give him that time. He was just like, "Nah, let's fight."
Yeah,
I mean, I don't
thanks.
know, like that's where I feel like that's why I like the structure of boxing better sometimes,
Yeah.
because for the fighter they have more say. It's just better for them. Where the UFC is like, it's just a lot different. The
Yeah,
UFC's
they
gonna
have an
do all
agenda.
the negotiation, but it does let you see, like, who's the best fighters.
Yeah.
You know, because the UFC's not on that. You know, your friends, blah blah blah. But at the same time too, though, I understand not wanting to go fight your boy, because it's like, this is my main sparring partner.
Yeah.
This guy's in my corner for every fight.
Yeah.
Like, and Marab, look, he seemed like he was down to fight Aljo.
Yeah.
Did you see at the he was
Yeah,
like,
bro.
they never sent contract. You said contract, maybe we fight. I don't know.
I think it's warranted, man. Marab has done more than stake his claim for
Yeah.
a title shot at this point.
Yeah, now Aljo can't. Now Aljo need to let it be Marab's time.
Yeah.
You know, don't even try to go back. I know Aljo talked about going to 45. I think the weight cut's just a little too much for him.
No, he's at 45. He's fighting Cater at 45.
But I don't see him really getting far at 45.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. I think that the skill gap in terms of striking and just, like, there's a lot of very bad stylistic matchups in that top 10 at featherweight for Aljo. Like,
Yeah.
really, really bad stylistic matchups.
I think one of the biggest things he had going for him, obviously his grappling, but the size that he had on
Yeah,
his
he was a
opponents,
massive
being
bantamweight.
able to be, like, so much stronger. But at 45, it's like, bro, these dudes are strong.
Yeah.
Like, you're not, you think you moving Volk around like that? You think you moving Ilya around like that? You ate that punch by Sean and got dropped.
Yeah.
You think you could go in there and even, like, first off, you think you could even kickbox with
That's what I'm saying.
Volk versus, like,
Not even those guys. Not even those guys. Josh Emmett, freaking Diego Lopez.
Yeah.
Arnold Allen. Those are nightmare fights for Aljo because they are dangerous equally as dangerous on the feet and well versed enough on the ground to where even like you said, the size is not going to be as big of an advantage for Aljo. So, like, that's not going to be a factor for him. So it's skill for skill, technique for technique.
Yep.
Those guys have the edge over Aljo, in my opinion.
I understand he has the wrestling, but even just from the more recent fights that I've seen of him, his wrestling is there, and it's more of something to, like, gain control.
Yeah.
You know, like, he's gaining control, and
He wants to slow the fight down to his pace when he initiates the wrestling. Like, it's like, yeah.
and as a wrestler, you know, as someone who wrestles, like, I like wrestling when I'm doing MMA. When you're trying to wrestle and you're holding some dude down, then he gets up, that's tiring.
It takes
bro.
so much out of you.
That's when you're like, all that work for nothing.
Literally.
How much more time? All right. I mean, you know, but I also know Aljo's smart. Aljo will grind a dude out for X amount of minutes, just making sure that he's winning that round, and then he'll disengage and then stay away. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, he has strategy, but
I just think when he gets in there with guys that have a more established all-around style where they can blend, like, they don't have to depend on one thing to win them the fight, that's where you're going to start seeing Aljo struggle. And like I said, the size not being an advantage.
Yeah, definitely. But, you know, it is what it is, man. Hey, I really appreciate you coming on today.
Of
We
course,
got to get
brother.
some UFC fights, some UFC talk, some MMA talk,
Just
some
combat
boxing,
sports talk,
combat.
baby.
Yeah, shout out your page one more time for the people.
Hey, shout out everybody. If you could follow Casual Roundhouse Media on YouTube. It hasn't been as active in the previous months, you know, just been working an actual job, but like content is enjoyable. If you don't enjoy making content or like, you know, just distributing knowledge to anybody that's willing to listen, you got to have something to live for in a way. And on top of that, just being able to grind in the gym with Samaj and the guys at CCS, like there's a camaraderie being established that you can't really explain unless you're in it. But shout out to the Dropouts, shout out to the Life of JM, and shout out to Casual Roundhouse Media.
Yes, sir. Hey, shout out to everyone. What's funny is I'm doing a podcast. I'm trying to get a podcast with everyone on Fight Team, and then I'm gonna have Coach on.
Oh,
after my debut, I'm gonna have Coach on.
Hell yeah, that's what's up, bro. I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, maybe one of these days we'll do like a whole panel. Like we'll just give everybody mics, and we'll just like
That would be crazy, bro.
just do it somewhere else. Where like honestly, we probably even do it at the gym.
Yeah, you could bring the setup to the gym and set it up. There's that little loft area that you could probably make it work in.
True. Because I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mic inputs. That's enough for people to go 2 and 2.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like Life of JM, you know they paired up.
Yeah, bro, for sure. But
Heck
no,
yeah.
that's dope. I can't wait to see what happens, bro.
Heck yeah, man. I appreciate you for coming on today.
Yes, sir.
Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. You already know the vibes. Peace out.